Welcome back to another episode of Built and Backed. Joining me today is Tjan, Chairman and Managing Partner of Qball, a private investment firm based in Boston, and the CEO and co-founder of MiniLuxe, a personal care and lifestyle brand that seeks to transform the nail care industry. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashley. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. You have a very impressive bio that's located in our show notes for our listeners to read through, but I'd love to start off the show by having you share more about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm an investor and entrepreneur. That's the short answer. But today, the vast bulk of my time is running a lifestyle nail care business, MiniLuxe, that started here in Massachusetts.
Awesome. And I'm curious to hear what inspired you to get started, like what prompted your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I grew up on an island furthest point east in Canada until the age of 15 when I left home to sell skincare door to door in Toronto. And it was the first time that I learned how entrepreneurship can give a sense of independence, of freedom, of empowerment, and how beauty could do that. I was part of a network marketing beauty company that really allowed me to have some of that flexibility at age 15 and 16. It's come back full circle after doing different tech companies and building different media tech companies and investing in some 40 businesses. But overall, I'd say, Ashley, the overarching theme of inspiration is trying to use entrepreneurship and capital as a force for good.
hmm Yeah, and I actually love that you mentioned that because I'd like to dive into it a little bit deeper about how you might define that, how you use entrepreneurship and capital for good.
Yeah, well, I think we've tended to have a bias towards bifurcating purpose and profit, or some might bucket organizations that are not for profit or impact oriented, and others that are capitalistic and for profit. And I think we are moving towards a space and place where profit and purpose don't need to be mutually exclusive. They could be mutually reinforcing allies. I think the newer, younger generations of consumers out there, and we see this all day, all night in a concept like MiniLuxe, where we try to offer the most ethical, cleanest practices, both for our team members and the way we treat our clients. They're looking for that.
Mhm.
They're looking for a higher standard of ethics, a clear clarity of purpose of your why. And, I think it's better for business. So I think we're migrating from a world where traditionally it was Milton Friedman that the only purpose of business is shareholder primacy and maximizing profit to one where purpose and profit can coexist.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point because I feel like people don't always remember that you can make money and be making a good impact in the world. And so I love that you shared that because it's totally possible as you've seen throughout your journey.
Yeah, I think, consumers don't just buy things. We say at MiniLux, we believe that they engage and ultimately support with their wallets feelings. People don't buy
hmm
just things, they buy feelings. And people want to, at a concept like MiniLux, they want to look good, they want to feel good, but they also want to do good.
Yeah.
And I think, those can be mutually reinforcing when they feel like they're not they're not contributing to an informal economy or trafficking or poor product practices or lack of hygiene.
hmm
That's often found in our nail care industry. Uh, and instead feel like at a place like MiniLux, where over half of our team members have equity in the business, where we believe we have the cleanest hygiene practices, where we provide a whole range of health and wellness benefits that, they're getting some self-care, but they're doing it in a way that's responsible.
Absolutely. And so with that being said, did Mini Lux come before or after Cue Ball?
Yeah, so we often joke that we're the only venture capital firm that started as a nail salon. So we had our holding group, Cue Ball Group, but within that, we wanted to start by building a business that really amplified and embraced a set of values and standards that could transform an entire industry. So the challenge that was put out to the team is I said, what's Starbuckable out there in an ethical way? And after much team thought and time, one of my co-founders, John Hamill, talked about seeing nail salons at many of his real estate holdings and or requests to go into many of his real estate holdings and seeing them at almost every corner, it felt like something that could be Starbucked. But as we dove deeper into it, we saw how poor the practices were. The most
Mhm.
used beauty practice that's the least regulated. So that started the birth of the first MiniLuxe in Newton Center, Massachusetts. And after we did that, we started getting more inquiries to invest in other businesses. So we slowly built up a fund over time and have since invested in about 40, 45 businesses.
That's amazing. And I'm curious to hear how you balance like your time and your load between Cue Ball and MiniLuxe, because I imagine both are very busy with a lot to focus on. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I went in the CEO position of MiniLuxe just roughly about 2 years ago. So that has taken its share of time over the last 2 years. And within the MiniLuxe portfolio, I have within the Cue Ball portfolio, I have other partners within Cue Ball that have taken care of many of other portfolio companies. I retain board roles and help companies that I've had a long-standing relationship with, but we divide and conquer between the partners.
Yeah, I'm sure. What have been, I mean, it might be hard to choose favorites, but what have been some of your favorite investments that you've made or your most proud investments that you've made?
Yeah, it's hard to choose between children, but I think there are many. There's a entrepreneur out of Rhode Island, Rajiv Kumar, who started a business that was all about trying to encourage greater wellness in corporate settings
Mhm.
with one of his brown roommates. And that business ended up really growing well beyond our expectations to tens and tens of millions. And eventually, in its latest incarnation, ended up selling for billions of dollars
Wow.
um, from selling for billions of dollars, just given its size of earnings that it made. But I'm most proud of the fact that it had such a profound impact on increasing wellness in the corporate
Mhm.
setting. And it did so actually in a real fun way. I understand you're a runner, so it was like trying to do so with positive peer pressure. So it'd be like, hey, Ashley, on Wednesdays, why don't we get 5 people just to do a 5K run every Wednesday?
Mhm.
And it's amazing when you have positive peer pressure how people would come together. And eventually it just really grew larger and larger and larger within organizations, and organizations paid for it to keep people healthy and well. So, that was Shape Up that eventually became Virgin Pulse with Richard Branson.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I think it's incredible that, like you shared, it just totally surpassed your expectations and became maybe it sounds like a unicorn, but like becoming billions of dollars from there.
Yeah, and sometimes you measure it by financial success. I think there's equally businesses that take on a counter narrative.
Mhm.
We backed a company, Starface, that is all about brightly colored pimple patches in the shape of stars. And, many people would have laughed at that, but it was a way to change the narrative about being body positive and celebrating who you are and expressing that. So there are companies like that that I'm equally proud of, and then ones that have been in the other ones that have been in the software and media space. So there's a lot.
Definitely, yeah. And I also love that it's a full circle moment for you that having started your career earlier on in skincare and now coming back around, investing in companies like that and also having MiniLuxe, it must be really cool to just think back years ago about what it was like back then compared to now.
Yeah, and I think. it made me realize that it was less about being in the beauty or skincare business than in the self-care business, because
Mhm.
self-care is really about giving people a sense of self-respect, self-confidence, and self-expression.
Definitely.
And all of those things are just hugely positive.
Mhm.
We should be proud of who we are. We should have mini moments of joy, that is MiniLuxe, and give ourselves a little bit of me time. And within that me time, permission ourselves to express ourselves on this 1 by 1 centimeter canvas called our nail plate in any way that we feel joy.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's important to focus on self-care and investing in ourselves. And I really appreciate that you've chosen to focus on that in your career. And in terms of private investment, I would love to go more into that. I mean, I would love to hear more about what it was like starting the fund. And I mean, I think you mentioned somewhere between 40 to 45 companies that you invested in since. I mean, that's an impressive number. So I'd like to hear more about your journey with that.
Um, well, starting the fund was slow, and it takes a lot of time and patience. It's been over 15 years of building that up. So I think the key elements were, what were we seeking? One is clarity that we wanted businesses that were at the intersection of purpose and profit, had a strong business model with great people. So purpose, people, and clarity of the business model. And then just really having a long-term focus, patience. And so those were design points of building it up. And also being flexible about being able to add capital where we saw signal.
Mhm.
So we've been able to invest as small as 50 or 100,000 to, in some cases, up to 8 figures into a single company.
Wow. And I imagine that having that flexibility allows you to be able to invest in all different types of projects. Like you're not, or investments, you're not limited, so to say, since you do have kind of both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I think it's more about, and look, time will tell. I think we've been at this for some time, but I think like an asset like MiniLuxe, when you're really trying to change an industry, it really takes time. So I think it's more about the flexibility to double down on bets that you think are real.
Yeah.
Um, it is very much requiring, it's more about having a long time horizon and realizing that it's not a sprint. It is a marathon, and that as you get conviction at different milestones, that you have a willingness to reevaluate the situation, and if positive, double down and grow your position. More so than just doing a lot of different bets,
Mhm.
more about being able to put more capital behind those projects that you think have the highest potential. And certainly with us, we believe MiniLuxe is the strongest opportunity we've seen in terms of having transformational potential for ourselves in terms of value creation and changing an entire industry.
Absolutely. And this question is a little bit more broad, but speaking of that, as you're looking at potential investments, what are some things you might be looking for that might indicate to you that there's a lot of potential in something?
Yeah, so it goes back to some of the first principles I said, purpose and people.
Hmm.
You need to start there, and then you have to see if there is really just answer 2 questions for transformation. One, do you believe that what the entrepreneur is proposing has 10x betterment? And second, is that 10x betterment defensible?
Hmm.
Those are probably the only 2 questions you need to answer. So 10x betterment, it could be in terms of price, it could be in terms of consumer experience, it could be in terms of certain supply chain relationships. But you need to believe there's some 10x betterment in terms of the value proposition. And then once you are comfortable with that, do you think it's defensible? And then once you have those 2 things, you probably would just want to see, well, what's the size and impact of that relative to the industry? For us in the nail care industry, we said, okay, this is a $45 billion industry where you have hundreds of thousands of nail designers that have been forgotten and underserved. with 60,000 places to get your nails done. If we get this right, do we have a lot of runway for growth and transformation? Do we think we have 10x betterment on how we're treating clients and our employees? And do we think how we're doing it is defensible and hard to replicate?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really good things to look out for. And it also makes me wonder too if you've ever been in a situation where you thought something had potential and it actually didn't, and what you learned from that.
Oh, never. Of course. Yeah, you can't play this game without accepting failure. I think more the lesson is probably not whether we've seen that, but when might we have failed faster? Uh,
Mm,
we have thought about and we've been invested in some situations that we thought would be very, very, very significant, but didn't have the full outcome that it did. Of course, that's happened to us before.
yeah. And how have you been able to bounce back from that? Because I think that's what's really admirable about anyone in investment is being able to have that resiliency when things don't work out and being able to put the next foot forward.
Um, I think it's just part of expectation setting when you
Mhm.
get into this type of field that you're going to have, heroes and zeros. And it's more about, are you disciplined enough to cut your losses faster and what lessons you can learn from it? And ultimately, um, when you reflect, was your underwriting and thought process of why you got into that at the first place still okay? Was the logic okay?
Mhm.
There's always different exogenous factors sometimes. So you have to look at the why something didn't work out. MiniLuxe was almost without hope during COVID. We had hundreds of people, we had tens of millions of revenue that went down to zero revenue and six people in under 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's there's lots of reasons why that happens, that could cause that, but people wouldn't have thought a worldwide pandemic would shut down,
Mhm.
all these retail service businesses overnight.
Yeah.
So, with that, we've been lucky to rebuild. That creates greater resiliency, and it actually makes us more excited about the robustness of the opportunity.
Yeah. And with that being said, I'm curious to hear what's next for Mini Lux, what you have planned in the coming year or anything that you're able to chat about.
Yeah, so there's several exciting components. We had bought into our MiniLuxe portfolio, and it's now one of our sister brands, Paintbox in New York. And that is a brand very much focused on nail art.
Mhm.
And so we've been really, really big on seeing the explosion of nail art. The Economist in October actually did a great piece talking about the enormous growth rate of nail art. And you're seeing people self-express themselves in all sorts of different ways, and that coming back. And I think that's something really to celebrate. Like I said, having confidence to self-express yourself. And this is not just in women, you're seeing a growing number of men, from Bad Bunny to quarterbacks like Caleb Williams to Styles to several people just showing off um, their look on their nails. So nail art is really exciting. Technology, we've been incorporating AI, and since we started, we've grown from initially only 2-3% doing online bookings to now nearly 100% of all our bookings are done through digital means. And we're using AI for inspo. So you can come in, Ashley, and say, well, I'm going to a wedding event, or I'm doing the Boston Marathon, or I have a holiday and Christmas coming up. Like we can give inspo and send that over based on your preferences. We're also using AI already to help screen and find the best nail designers out there. So I'd say artistic expression and technology through AI are two big things. And lastly, I'd say the world of fandomship. You're seeing a lot of nails really represent people's brand affinities, whether that be sports teams, characters. That's all coming about. And more
Oh,
studios
oh,
all across the
amazing.
country.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love what you shared about using AI to help provide inspiration because I feel like that's making a big shift from what is typical of someone to showcase their Pinterest board or something of what they've thought of and are looking for, and instead have the artist or technician help provide it through AI and inspiration there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Amazing. And then now in terms of cue ball, what is happening in the next year for that, especially any trends that you might be seeing or things that might be popping up as it relates to private investment?
Yeah, we've been focusing on managing our existing portfolio over the last couple of years. We have some large positions, including MiniLuxe. We have, like everyone, tried to think of the impact of AI on our portfolio positions. But our focus has really been over the last couple of years of uh, doubling down, spending time where we really see opportunity in some of our existing large positions.
Yeah. And for anyone who's listening to this episode who's interested in getting into private investment themselves, what advice would you give to them based on what you've learned throughout your own career journey with it?
Well, I think having entrepreneurial operating experience always helps. I've joked sometimes that being an operator has helped me become a better investor. I'm not sure being an investor has helped me become a better operator. So you can't manage. For most businesses, it's very hard to manage from a spreadsheet.
Mhm.
You have to get your hands dirty, understanding that founder journey, what it's like to start something of your own, whatever it is, a retail business, a media podcast, a software company, going through that journey of building something and getting that builder mindset allows you to be more empathetic, understand pitfalls yeah, that you learn yourself, and overall build greater self-awareness. So that's super important. And then I would say that the second thing, it's just really having pattern recognition. That just comes with miles on the skis, like on what are things that have worked in different business models, in different industry trends. So that's a second. Lastly, which is a lifelong lesson, is how to become a better judge of people. And I would say there, I've written on this in a book, Good People, but I think we tend to over-index on people's competencies and underestimate the value of character. So character will, in the long run, trump competency. And how you become a better judge of that, of something that tends to be revealed over time, how you become better able to assess that sooner with greater accuracy is something to really work on.
I love that about the importance of being able to judge people in the right way. And after speaking with a lot of other investors, that's one thing a lot of them have mentioned as well, is that when they're thinking about making an investment, one of the biggest driving forces is the founder or the co-founders, and making sure that it's a fit there. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah, and I think it's not just for an investor finding an entrepreneur. For us at MiniLuxe right now, a critical growth strategy is finding JV partners and franchise partners. We need to treat them the same way as if they were part of a family to us, that we entrust them to have freedom within our framework to build and grow our dream and live the standards and values of our purpose. It is the same thing in finding friends, in finding a soulmate. All of these components are similar in terms of how important it is to really get a sense of people's character. It's it's
Absolutely.
it's it's well beyond just being an investor.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's so many
I
different
mean,
components to look into.
yeah, I think maybe the investor side that's a little different is in marriage. I guess you pick the wrong mate, you're allowed to get divorced. In investing, you can't.
Yeah, that's true. And I actually have not had any guests on the show yet who have been franchisers. So I'd love to chat more about that and what you've learned being a franchiser and having joint ventures through MiniLuxe.
Yeah, I think it's been awesome. I think if we look back, we probably Waited a long time, maybe too long, to re-engage with that. One of our board members was a very successful McDonald's franchisee and was head of McDonald's strategy globally. And so we have a lot of experience to help us think about how to allow what I call, or what we call, freedom within a framework,
Mhm.
to give people the opportunity to be in business for themselves, but not by themselves.
Right.
From the standpoint of a franchisor, I've learned the importance of being very deliberate on who you choose as your partner. It goes back to the people factor. We've had opportunities to franchise out, dozens at a time, and I'm glad we've held back. We really want the first set of 10 franchisees to be, the poster childs of all that we could have ever dreamed of for a perfect franchise partner. I think it reinforces something that both in investing venture capital and in business that you have to really strive for is how you win the Best Supporting Actor award. I think that is probably most critical. And that means having better systems and culture that we're working on. And lastly, I think it's just the power of decentralized entrepreneurship. I think is
Yeah,
so, so powerful.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. And one of my favorite questions to ask our guests is to give a shout out to someone who's doing something in tech right now that they really admire. So it could be another investor, could be a founder, operator, really anyone is fair game, but would love to hear who you're admiring and feeling inspired by lately.
Well, there's a lot. If you're putting it in terms of tech, I think the founder of BYD Battery, which only until recently was literally and figuratively a pretty foreign name of the Chinese battery and now electric car company, and the founder Wang Chuanfu, who started the company in 1995 as a rechargeable battery manufacturer and now has overtaken Tesla in terms of number of electric vehicles. I've been fortunate to watch that story and through another vehicle have an indirect small investment in there and some exposure. So that's been incredible. But I think there are many founders that I respect that have started in the ones I always love that have started in a very bootstrap way. I love the dynamic duo behind Glow Recipe. This is a K-beauty brand. This is Christine Chang and Sarah Lee, who founded one of the top Sephora brands in Korean beauty, $50,000 out of their pocket, turned down an offer on Shark Tank, and have really grown that business in an incredible way. We have a supplement business, Serafina, that produces Fatty 15. It's like a super omega-3 through a synthetic dolphin compound C15. Just incredible tech that was taken from the Navy. Very, very humble founders, Eric and Steph there. And I just think they've done an incredible job of building a profitable company. So companies that have been profitable first, they don't always get all the headlines. I think we tend to be biased in media on PR over P&L. And I love those ones that are profitable first.
Yeah, great shout outs. Tony, this has been such a great episode, and I've so enjoyed having you come on the show to share everything that you've been doing with MiniLuxe and Cue Ball. And now I'd love to have you share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to connect.
Great. Thanks, Ashley. It's been great being on here. And you can find me at minilux.com, cueball.com, and tonychan.com, TonyTjan.com.
Amazing. And I'll include those links in the show notes for our listeners to easily find you and connect from there. Thank you so much again for coming on today's episode of Built and Backed.
All right. It's been great being on B&B.